All right, good morning, everybody. Sorry about a bit of a delay there. I'm going to make sure we get everything all lined up. It is 9:52 on this 19th day here of February. I'm wave meteorologist Brian Good. It's a special report here for our Alert Day coverage that probably will be several times you may be seeing us today other than the normal time. So not sure if it's a good or a bad thing. But good morning. Obviously, our main focus is the thunderstorm set up this afternoon and for even part of this evening till about midnight. It looks like it's going to be busy for us. So there's going to be a lot to cover. So Wavy, thank you, Wavy. Wavy's going to be busy as well, covering a lot of things here. We'll get into that coming up in just a few minutes. First off, welcome. For those of you just not clicking on to the stream here, again, you can comment and ask your questions. I will likely get to a lot of your questions a little bit later in the stream as I try to explain this, but you can on YouTube, Facebook, X, and on Twitch as well. If you're new to watching this, again, I usually try to explain everything full on, and then we'll get into the questions, and then we'll wrap up at the end. I'm not going to do a lot of long-term stuff today for obvious reasons. We got a lot to focus on in the short term, right? The game plan here is to try to explain the scenario this afternoon, what you need to prepare for, and when to expect it, and where we think it will happen. So I'm going to go into some of the meteorology, but I'm not going to go way into the weeds on that today because really it's a moot point. You guys just really need to know what to expect and when, right? So that's the main focal point that I'm going to try to cover here. So bear with me. And again, I'll try to keep up with your questions as you guys line up. for the rest of the coverage here. All right, so let's dive into it. We're going to start, first off, how things have played out this morning. We've had some fog in the area, some downpours. I know some of you were thinking that was the thunderstorms this morning. That was not. That was expected. Those were just showers, a bit of a moisture boundary. I'll show you that in a second, passing through. But it has led to a very soupy atmosphere in advance of it. Some areas are getting a little bit of sun. Some are dealing with a foggy scenario outside. But you probably have noticed as you stepped out, it does feel different, right? It feels a little more humid than we have had, well, this year. So it stands out, showing that obviously we've kind of flipped the atmosphere around, and that's the reason why our coverage is going to be the focal point for severe weather here later. All right, current temperature 61 outside here in Louisville. Lower 60s all the way down in parts of southern Kentucky. Not as high of a value, but still not too far away. Mid 50s in Indiana, but it's more of a overcast, foggy scenario too in Indiana at the moment. So you have not had this moisture boundary pass all the way past your area, but you will here soon, and you will get some sunshine at times as it drifts through the area. All right, let me show you the radar. And there's that boundary passing on through. You see it drifting toward areas around Lexington and I-64. Heading towards Cincinnati. Areas of central Kentucky, you got some areas got a little bit of sun. If you're watching right now, you probably already said this in the chat. Let me see. Has anybody said sun? Somebody usually does. When you see sun, everyone lights up. And I understand that, and rightfully so, because the sun will work against us here today, right? You see we do have a partly cloudy sky back to the west, although some of that may be a shadow on the leading edge of that. But either way, we're going to go into a partly cloudy sky a little more toward lunch and early afternoon. So if you are still overcast at the moment, that is actually fully expected. It's later on today that things will begin to ramp up a bit more. Okay, Wavy, I'm going to actually silence Wavy. Wavy, let's you take a little bit of a nap there. But the alerts will still pop into the bottom if you need to see them. All right, let me get into a wider view, because here's where we're at with this. This morning was interesting because the leading edge of this moisture boundary, it's technically not the warm front. It's easier for us to say that, but meteorologically speaking, it's not. It's just the moisture boundary itself. But it has lifted to the north and has produced several hailers into Indiana, especially north of Indianapolis already this morning. This started about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They are issuing severe thunderstorm warnings for large hail, and they've had confirmed large hailstones out of those cells to the north. Typically speaking, when I've seen this scenario play out, when you start the day off with some severe weather that's confirmed, whether it's large hail or wind damage, that tends to accelerate the thinking that everything is going to be realized in the data you're looking at. It's usually when the morning goes off the rails, is not lining up, that the afternoon may do the same. But in this case, we're already seeing storms that are able to produce severe weather. So I think the game plan is on track here for an active afternoon for our counties. Now, as I mentioned, there's several different features on this regional look here. Hopefully you see where Louisville is right there in the middle, right? All right. The low pressure, the main driver in the seat, is back here just west of St. Louis, and it is getting stronger. It's cranking up as it moves across areas of Missouri. It will actually split. The surface low will head a little east, and the upper low will curve northwest into Wisconsin. So that drive actually intensifies low pressure when that happens. When it has a little turn like that and kind of backtracks, it enhances the wind field, and we're already seeing that really light up into Missouri heading in our direction. So as far as the fronts go, and this is a little confusing, technically I would say the warm front is, if we had to draw it for what you need to expect today, it runs near St. Louis and across southern areas of Kentucky. Again, this portion of it is a little more of a moisture boundary than a typical wind shift, because we already have a south wind. So we already know we've got that south flow here. Typically we have to wait for that. We've already got that. So it's more now of a wind issue aloft than it is really to surface. The warm front, we're expecting it to move to the northeast, and this is where we're expecting it to be roughly between the 2 to 6 p.m. window. Will be draped across south central areas of Indiana, southeast corner there of Indiana, along 71 into northern Kentucky. That's where the warm front should be roughly around 4 o'clock or so this afternoon. As it makes its journey to the north and east, that's what we're going to be tracking. That will likely initiate some smaller supercells that will develop here by the time we head towards, say, roughly 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock, even here in Louisville. These cells will be the very beginning stages of it. Once a front passes by, we may actually see areas calm down a bit on the other side of the front. We may actually see a little bit of sunshine. The radar may relax a bit. But still, wherever that front is located, that is where you don't want to be today. You want to be anywhere near this bad boy, because that is where any thunderstorm that develops along it will have the ability to rotate. Unfortunately, the front is expected to be passing through wave country at the time of max heating of the day this afternoon. So all the parameters are lining up for there to be rotating supercells in the area, and some of which can produce large hail, and again, even a few tornadoes. So the Storm Prediction Center is watching this. I'll show you their outlook in a second. I mentioned we've already got the soupy atmosphere here. Our dew points are already into the 50s and low 60s. We've already got the south wind. So we've already got the moisture really in play. It's an issue now of whether or not it mixes down just a bit this afternoon, but that's a technical issue we'll worry about on the meteorology side. We'll be tracking that. What you really need to be aware of, for you weather watchers especially, is the low-level jet. And that is really beginning to ramp up back to the west, the upper level jet, excuse me, back here into Missouri. That is the leading edge of where you're going to have your strongest potential here for tornadoes to rotate along it. It's now in southern Missouri. It's about to cross into Illinois. And as soon as that leading edge of that purple gets right into Indiana and central areas of Kentucky and around Cincinnati, that is when we'll start likely getting some reports of rotation or even tornadoes that could be developing at that time. So that's what we're tracking, watching the purple, if you will, for the rest of the morning and early afternoon. As it drifts toward us, that's when everything should ignite right on the leading edge of that mid-level jet that moves in here for this afternoon. Storm Prediction Center, as well, let me show you the CAPE too. Here's the fuel. Again, we've already got the moisture here. We're already beginning to see CAPE values go up in across Illinois and Indiana. So the fuel is set. So as that wind push moves in from the southwest, it's going to overlap right into this, and that sets the stage for a problem. So here's the outlook that they changed, and this is what it really isn't a surprise. And for a lot of meteorologists that have been tracking this, no one's surprised that this is upgraded to an enhanced, because this is a very interesting setup that it is sparse in coverage, but whatever develops can be intense. So that kind of changes up the narrative a bit to where some of you will get supercells that can produce tornadoes, and likely will in this kind of scenario. But some of you may just stay partly sunny for the rest of the afternoon. You may not see much of anything. And there is a narrow window of opportunity that some of you will be completely missed from rain altogether, because these cells will be in such little clusters that I can't roll out, because there's 34 counties we're tracking here, that some of you may slip in between all that and you get nothing. So let me exercise caution here while we're talking about the severe threat, and it certainly is elevated as we head into this afternoon. It's not a guarantee that you, where you're at, is going to experience it. But certainly, if you do experience it, the potential to get a warning or even some damaging weather is higher than it usually would be in this kind of a scenario, right? So here's the enhanced risk. It's a level 3 out of 5. And they don't issue these too often, but we see this a little more typically later in the spring and the summer season, but we don't get them too often in February. We get severe threats and outbreaks in February, yes. Enhanced risk doesn't happen too often. That's a little more on the rare side. You can see that they've drawn that near the Wabash, in through northern Du Bois County, all the way to just north of Henryville and in Madison. And they got a slight risk for Louisville along 64. And it's a marginal in our southern counties. But to be honest with you, I think really the slight will be more likely drawn like that way. But, who cares at this point? I'm just trying to at least show you the maps. I like where they put this, to be honest, because the signal to get a potential 1 or 2 supercells to track in across our northern counties into Indiana has been overwhelming. The signal has been for about 36 hours now. And it's not really wavering a whole lot, as you're about to see. So if you live in that area that is in that darker shade here, whether you're in Paoli, Salem, Indiana, Scottsburg, Madison, North Vernon, Seymour, and to Bedford, Indiana there, you need to be aware today that there will likely be a supercell crossing very close to your location. And I can't guarantee it's going to produce a tornado, but boy, if it's got a setup that it can do it, this is one that can do it. So that's why the Storm Prediction Center elevated the risk, because they're seeing the same data that the rest of us are, that the signal is becoming a little too persistent And once the models start doing that, you got to pay attention to that. You can't ignore that signal, right? You got to okay, the models and short-term data are trying to give you enough of a heads up. You got to react to that. So why the enhanced risk? Because of this, where the potential is there to get a tornado that could be on the strong side, and strong would exceed an EF2 rating. Again, not guaranteed, but not exactly a typical EF0, EF1 scenario. You can get one or two that could be on the ground for a while, and with these supercells. And that's the reason why we got to really watch our Indiana counties. Large hail, I do think, will also be a threat for some of these. It didn't look as promising yesterday on that idea. Today, it does. I think golf ball size is going to be a threat in some of these larger cells that will move through. And to be honest with you, I think you would have to include even the cells that will form over the Louisville metro toward lunch here in the next few hours or so. Those will more than likely be hailers than tornadic supercells, the way it's looking to me personally. But I'll show you this in an hour setup. All right. So here we go. I'm going to start with Futurecast. Pick out where you're at on the map. Louisville's in the middle, of course. There's our counties, our viewing area. If you're watching outside the viewing area, yeah, you kind of know where you are in relation to this, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this literally hour by hour on Futurecast, one step at a time. So as we head to 2 o'clock, the warm front will be approaching Jasper at that point into about Brandenburg and E-Town. The little batch of clouds, that will be the leading edge of the purple, will begin to approach. So as it does approach, these smaller supercells are going to develop. So at 2 o'clock, we're okay. At 3 o'clock, they pop. And again, these will likely rotate. My gut feeling is that these will likely be severe thunderstorm warnings, potentially, that will have tornado possible on the tags on them. I don't know right now because the bases at that point may be a little bit elevated. It's close, really close. It's leaning a little more toward the hail side than it will be a tornado side, but still, I don't let your guard down, even at 3 o'clock when these first supercells form over parts of Indiana. I'm not going to say it's going to be right over Corydon or right over Orange County. It's going to be in that vicinity, wherever that warm front is moving in. And again, roughly between 3 and 4 o'clock, it should be passing through the Louisville metro region here, right? So it's 3 o'clock. Let me advance this. Here we go, 4. They moved right into Scottsburg area, Clark County, now into Jefferson County, Indiana. Again, likely these will probably be warned, I got a feeling, at this point in the day. But look at this bad boy. I tell you what, when you see a data pick out on a supercell, and it's really just been one, to be honest, that travels here across Indiana, but it's been persistent on this idea that one's forming near the Wabash and will be tracking very close to US 50 as we head into this afternoon. So at that point, 4 in the afternoon, we're going to be busy because we're going to be watching the current supercells that are forming over the Louisville area and rapidly heading towards Cincinnati. And at the same time, we've got to pay attention to the new supercells that have formed out of Illinois that are moving into Indiana. Now, the environment is favorable for what we call splitting supercells. And not to get technical in the weeds again, but whenever they do have a splitting nature to them, they do tend to turn right. So as they track east, our concern is going to be that 1 or 2 of these, as they get stronger, could split, and we get splitting cells. We will run into an issue where we may get 1 or 2 that may drift into our Indiana counties there from Bedford over into North Vernon. But these are the ones you really got to watch. At this point, you're at max heating. You've got the best amount of fuel at that point, and the boundary's right there. The boundary will be draped at that point right across southern Indiana and along 71. Now, on the other side of the front, again, Louisville likely had already experienced some type of smaller supercells, may have already passed through by this point by 5 o'clock. They're going to race by. They're not going to be here very long, just a few minutes, and boop, they're gone. And then we may go back to just completely sunny skies right after that. Breezy out and warm, likely into the 70s at that point, but quiet. And yeah, you could get a few cells, by the way, could pop in southern Kentucky. So I don't want to ignore you all. Right now, I think hail will be the only issue really with those. You're not really in an environment for tornadoes in that area of Kentucky at 5 o'clock this afternoon, but you could get a few smaller hail storms out of these, small hailers, if you will, could develop there into southern Kentucky. So not ignoring you all, but certainly the main threat is going to be where the boundary is, where the front is. That's really it will certainly matter. All right, that's 5 o'clock. Here we go at 6. We're heading into the evening now. We're already getting closer to sunset. Again, 1 or 2 of these supercells should be ongoing still. Again, the exact placement could vary. It could be up toward Indianapolis. Yes, it may completely miss our viewing area right on the edge of our counties and then head into Ohio. I can't rule that out. It's possible. I'm not willing to take the risk. And I don't think any meteorologist will at this point. That's too much of a margin of error. As I always like to say in data this short term, you've got to give it about 2 rows of counties of a margin of error on anything you're tracking, to be honest. In this case, that certainly applies. So given 2 rows of counties, that fits perfectly where that enhanced risk is, that buffer zone where these cells could track in the area. That's 6 o'clock. It's advanced this now. Here we are at 7. They're still going, heading into areas of southeast Indiana now and Cincinnati. Now, as we are heading into the evening hours, as we're still watching these supercells in Indiana, we also have to turn our heads and look back to the west, because now we got what we call a dry line, which is basically a cold front for your sake. That will be approaching from the west. It is going to take advantage now of the warmth that's been building up and the humidity that it's in the place of it. So we now have to watch for new development of thunderstorms that'll be a little bit more north and south that will begin to develop into the evening. So we're still watching Indiana at 7. We get to 8 o'clock. They start to pop right there, very close to Louisville and central areas of Kentucky. Here we are at 9 o'clock. And look at the cells, by the way, they're still ongoing. Now, this should become much more of a clustered mess at this point at 9 o'clock. We're losing the heating of the day. They could still actually have warnings still ongoing in the same spot. Some areas could experience more than one supercell today. And our Indiana counties through Cincinnati. You could get 1 or 2 that could be tornado warnings back to back. It's that kind of a weird day because it's very linear on how they're tracking. And again, the rest of the area, at this point, you may not have a whole lot going on. So it's going to be a little tough. And I know we have a lot of our coverage today with the Olympics. I'll explain how we're going to handle that. But as we're tracking these storms, we've got to take care of everybody. So I'm asking for your patience now. Everyone matters that's watching. Everyone lives matter, right? So we're going to be taking care of everybody. So even if it's quiet in Columbia or it's quiet in Bardstown at the moment, if we still have active weather in northern counties, we're going to be talking about and covering it. That is our duty. That's what we've done since we've been on the air at the very beginning of time here for television, really. So we will continue that. All right. But here's the thing. You may be quiet at that moment in Bardstown, but these cells will begin to power up into central Kentucky. You're still in that purple. You still got the wind. You don't have as much fuel because we're past sunset, but you've got the wind energy, and the wind energy actually gets stronger, but it's a balancing act. You got to look at like these scales. You're losing a little bit of heat, but you're balancing up the wind field a bit more. So it's still not great. It's just going to be different types of thunderstorms versus the bigger supercells. You're going to get a little more, a little bit of a cellular look to it, but at times they'll merge into a line. You can still get an isolated tornado out of that. But typically, they're more damaging winds and more of a hail threat when you get into that scenario. So that's what we're likely facing at 10 o'clock. But still, we're ongoing at 10 p.m. We keep going. 11 o'clock news tonight. Still tracking southern Kentucky at this point with severe weather that is taking place. And then we get toward midnight. They continue to track off to the east, likely still producing some warnings in our southeast counties. And this will be the last of it as we get toward the midnight hour, starting to push out. But notice some areas near southern Indiana and northern Kentucky, it's a little weird here because the cells in the afternoon, the big ones, may scoot to the north, and then the evening cells may scoot to the south. So the only thing we may get in the middle would be whatever happens at 2 o'clock, the ones that produce hail today. So some of you, again, could get skipped. That's what I'm saying. There's going to be a lot of gaps in this, and it's all different time frames from one side of the viewing area to the other. We get to the other side of this after 1, 2 o'clock, we're done. It's going to stay windy, though, but getting colder as we get into tomorrow. Potential rotation on this. We get toward 3 o'clock. Some of those cells in Indiana show rotation. It doesn't always mean tornadoes, by the way. It just means that they're a strong supercell. And that's where I think some of these may be producing hail as they pass through parts of the Louisville area and track into the 71 corridor. I'm isolated tornado, I can't rule it out. I'm thinking, again, severe thunderstorm warnings with a tornado tag seem likely, but we could get an isolated tornado warning out of these in the 3 to 4 p.m. window, possible. Meanwhile, you see the obvious track of this the supercell that, again, has been very dominant in the data tracking across Indiana. That continues into 8 o'clock. I mean, it basically just verifies everything we saw. Then we get into the evening. We're watching down here in southern Kentucky. There's a hint of rotation. Again, the signal is not as strong on the rotating part in southern Kentucky as it is in our Indiana counties during the day today. All right. That's how the threats are looking. Some of you ask about our climate vision model that we have, our partnership with them, which is an AI, long range AI model, which is high res, which is I think the only one out there really like this. Let me show you what it shows. And this is the, I duplicated the same image. Sorry about that. But what I wanted to show you, the track of the supercell in Indiana, look at that track. It is very close to what you just saw on the other model I just showed you on the HRRR. Very close to our northern counties. It shows 2 tracks. So one of those may be the 3 o'clock supercell that moves along. And then the other one may be, it likely will be the one in the 4 to 6 p.m. window that moves in Indiana. And the reason why I did the second image is to show that it does hint at some tracks in the evening. So this is daytime through about 7 p.m. And this is really 7 p.m. to midnight. But this is the grand total on the right side, if you put both together. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So let me give you a couple timelines because this is what you need to know. 2 to 7 o'clock, again, severe thunderstorms along the north of 64. Some of that will happen in the 3 to 4 p.m. window around Louisville. Otherwise, our focus will certainly be in Indiana through areas of the northern part of the 71 corridor. You get to 7 p.m. to midnight, we're watching the line of storms, especially in central and southern Kentucky, as they drift by. And then after midnight, we get into a windy but colder scenario by morning. Rain chances, again, this is coverage, not your chance of getting severe. If you're, if it's the red bar, the severe potential is there. The number percentage is coverage. It's very limited in the afternoon because we're only dealing with a few supercells in Indiana at that point. So we don't have widespread coverage, but boy, they could pack a punch. We get into evening, coverage will become a little more widespread with the actual dry line cold front that moves through. All right, so our coverage plans on TV today, if we need to be on wall to wall with tornado warnings, we're going to be on. Now, our newscast, we're going to be on here on midday at 11. We'll be streaming at 12 online, our 12 noon show, because the Olympics will take over. We get out of the Olympics at 5 p.m. We go back to normal coverage on TV. If we have to interrupt the Olympics this afternoon, we will have to. Now, we're going to try to limit that until we know that we have an immediate threat and tornado warning obviously is taking place. But again, I think the coverage, hopefully you guys understand the coverage of that is more important than the Olympics. And you got to keep in mind too, the Olympics today are live, but they will replay what happens today, this evening. So you're likely not going to miss much. But I get it. Some of you that have no active weather, we always hear an uproar on that. But our plan, though, is if we have to be on, we're going to be on. Now, what's important, and this is why you guys are watching the stream right now, is that we have this ability to talk to you through the app, through social media. We're going to be doing that several times today, I got a feeling. And certainly if we have several severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing, but no tornado warning yet, but it's active, we're going to be on streaming. And if we have to flip onto the TV side, we will. Otherwise, we'll be here talking to you. I think it's likely, in fact. Otherwise, our newscast will be streaming at 3 and 4 o'clock this afternoon as normal, but that may be completely blown out with weather coverage, got a feeling. So again, make sure to download the Wave Weather app. If you're watching on social media, the Wave Weather app, you can't always rely on the social media notifications, as you guys have learned. Sometimes those work, sometimes they don't. It's out of our control. But the app, it works. So as long as you have your GPS location services turned on, make sure you do so we can find you. That way it'll notify you as the alerts go by, and it'll notify you of heavy rain, it'll notify you of lightning, and we will specifically pick out areas today that if we feel you're in immediate danger, we're going to notify just your devices in your area when that happens. So we don't alert everybody. Say if there's a damaging tornado that we're tracking in Indiana this afternoon, we're not going to constantly alert you guys down in Adair County. So, but in Indiana, we're going to be highlighting, but it'll go by your location. So got to make sure that's on. and set the current location so that it follows where we draw correctly when we send that. I hope that makes sense. Okay. There you have it. Whew, that's a lot. What questions can I try to answer for you guys? And be kind, please. Forget the Olympics. That's when Barcelona's going to see a NATO. I totally understand, Tristan. Totally understand. But I have to, I feel like we always have to have that disclaimer. And there's certain things, too, that NBC, I mean, they obviously understand tornado warning scenario, but we try to be respectful to everything happening. It's a good balance tonight. But thank goodness we have this, right? Thank goodness we have the stream to connect to you all and reach you all. That helps. Back before this was available 4 years ago, it was a little more of a problem. Okay, some of you are going to be asking, I know you will, what are the chances of my house getting hit or my neighborhood or this county? That's going to be a little harder for me to answer. All I can tell you is that if you are in Indiana, or let's be fair, near 64 and north, you need to be on guard as soon as 2 o'clock today and be weather aware all the way really through this evening. If you are in central and southern Kentucky, south of Louisville, I don't see much action until really this evening. You could get a few hailers this afternoon. I'm not going to discount that, but your severe threat has more of a peak closer to 10 p.m. Tonight. So some of you will have a little bit more of a relaxed period this afternoon, early evening. Others will be on guard probably the whole time. And between Louisville and Indianapolis, that is going to be the active zone that we're going to be tracking here today. So until they form, I don't know if they're going to head toward your county. They have to form first. All I can tell you is the data we've got now, we've analyzed it. We know where the boundary is. We can see the purple. We see the wind surge. We know we got the moisture here. We're getting some partly cloudy skies in the area. The stage is set. So we know now our confidence has increased that we're going to have warnings across the region here this afternoon. I just don't know if all these are going to be supercells that will touch down. I don't know that. But you got to be ready. You got to be ready just in case. No weather radio. Make sure you have a way to get notified. The app. Know your safety spot. Talk to your family. Make sure you know where to go. Say if the tornado warning comes out for your county. All right. Know where to go. Take shelter. Put shoes on. Always say that just in case you get any type of broken glass in your scenario. You never want to be barefoot. It happens a lot. And it's a lot of injuries happen, obviously, after the storm and everyone's trying to get out of their spot. So I always say put your shoes on and get into your area, interior room, get away from the exterior side of the home altogether. Lowest level, number one. You never want to be up high. Lowest level, first thing you got to find. If you have one level only, okay, fair. Get in the middle. Don't be near the exterior side of the wall. A room without a window is best. Bathrooms, we always say a bathroom does well because sometimes the plumbing in the bathroom and the walls tends to hold up the wall as well too, so they can be safe. Or a closet is good. If you have a basement, obviously that's a good spot to get into as well. But get low. You don't want to be up high. If you are in a mobile home and you're worried about this afternoon, I don't think you need to make any action now and move anywhere and get any spot. But I think you need to start thinking of that at least. Call up a friend that has a home that you can get into, a sturdier home or structure, and say, hey, if we were to get a warning, can I come there today? Just go ahead and make that call and touch base. What's wrong with that? Doesn't hurt anything. You're planning ahead. That's what we're hoping you're doing anyway. So you don't get caught off guard. Hope that makes sense. Any chance this could weaken? The only thing, Kelly, that could, it's still on the table, would be after the warm front moves by. I mentioned that how the air, what we call that mixing potential, the dew point drops a bit. That may save some of the area from some of the worst of the storms. But as far as the supercells moving across Indiana, I think they're likely to form. The data, again, is overwhelming. They're going to develop. We just don't know if they will. They're all going to rotate. I mean, that's likely. We just don't know if they're going to produce the tornado that will drop all the way down below the tree line and touch down. We may have funnels in some cases, and we may have one that full on touches down. And again, one or two of those could be a strong tornado. And you got to take that seriously. And these are the ones that, thankfully, in this environment, we get a little bit more of a heads up than we do the isolated EF0 and EF1s that are embedded in a line. Boy, we don't get much of a heads up. Sometimes they happen before we even get notified about it, especially at night. because they're hard to see, and it gets confusing because there's a lot of straight line wind mixed into it all. No one really knows what happened until after it's passed by, and we have to go back and reanalyze the damage Weather Service does and determines what it was. But in this case, when you get larger supercells, we get a little bit more of a heads up. So this is a good thing. And again, that target area I showed you, let me go back to that, will be Indiana. Especially, again, from Lawrence County over into Jennings, Scott, the Arion Hatch area. That's the area that I'm most concerned about right now, that we need to watch for that potential that went onto those cells, especially if they split again, they could go right. Otherwise, they may just hug right on the edge of our viewing area. You may be staring it down, and we've seen that before. You guys remember Columbus, Indiana, and Bartholomew County area when we had the strong tornado. What was that, a year and a half ago? There's been so many events. I mean, it can be right up against your area, but obviously it doesn't count if it's on you. But still, it's going to be close. So be ready just in case. Everyone type 3 if you're good, if you understand the scenario and you understand what you need to do and you understand the timing. If you don't, let me know if I'm confusing you at all. And maybe I can clear up. Well, I got a couple moments here before I have to get back in the office and get things ready for the show here. I want to see a lot of 3s, I hope. Chris Evans, on my way to Terre Haute. Yeah, they will be photogenic, Chris, especially that timing of the afternoon, daylight. These supercells, because the dew points will be lower in some areas, you won't have a lot of overcast in many areas there. You may actually see some of the tops of those from far away. So they'll be pretty wild to see the structure of them. Very much a spiral look to them. You'll actually see some of that potential in some of these, especially the ones in Indiana, though. That's our bigger issue. I want to caution again, we are expecting some of these to pop into the Louisville area before the ones in Indiana get going. There will be some that pop near Louisville. I'm not discounting those. Could be a bit of a problem. Right now, we're leaning toward hail would be an issue, but an isolated tornado threat possible. That would be roughly 3 to 4 o'clock. 3 to 4 o'clock today. And around Louisville and really either side of Louisville, but scooting right along the river. That should be the first round. Then we'll watch Illinois for the supercells moving across Indiana. And then we got to watch Central and Southern Kentucky this evening. So it's 1, 2, 3 will be happening today. It's going to be challenging. So we're going to have a lot of eyes looking everywhere to keep an eye on all this. So your reports, by the way, are very helpful. We appreciate you all when you send those in. You can do so on the Wave Weather app. You can send your videos there as well, and your photos. Remember, shoot your videos sideways, but only do so when it's safe, obviously. But your reports will help us. I don't mind that you tell me that it's sunny out. That's fine. You can rant all you want to me. There you go, Steve. Thank you. Peaks of Sunshine of Brandenburg. You can rant all you want to me about what you're experiencing because it always helps. It's never a bad thing. I just want you guys to relax at the same time. I don't want anyone to be overly nervous and panicky here. The goal of this is to explain what to expect so that hopefully eases a little bit of your mindset so you know what's expected and when to expect it. It's a little more unsettling when we get into the overnight tornado scenarios when we don't really know how it will play out and everyone's nerves are up. You can't sleep. You're just tossing and turning. You're staring at the TV and you're just waiting, right? I get that. That's not fun. I totally understand that. This one's a little different. This one's going to happen more in the afternoon. Okay, I was waiting for this one, Francisco, about kids today in school. I don't know what Indiana counties will do. I don't make that decision on the school districts, obviously. That's up to them. It'll be close. There is a chance, again, 3 to 4 is when the first supercells will form in and around Southern Indiana and around Louisville. But I don't think that threat looks overly high to where everybody needs to, get out early or anything. But still, if you are heading to school to pick up the kids, be aware. I mean, there are going to be some thunderstorms on the radar, and check the Wave Weather app, see where they're at. Everything's moving rapidly to the east-northeast today. The only exception will be those supercells in Indiana that split, may drift southeast. Otherwise, everything will be heading east-northeast, especially for the mid-afternoon round. So if you see it on the radar, track in that direction. No sun in E-Town. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, last minute here. Anyone? Hello, Crispy Brisket. How you doing? A lot of threes. I'm going back and checking to make sure I see a lot. 4 minus 1. I'll take that. I'll take that. Look, you guys are. I see a lot of names. I see a lot. You guys are professionals. You're like our junior weather club here. So you guys know how this goes. You know the game plan, how we're going to do this. So we're just kind of updating you where we're at on the timeline. It's just a little weird today just because of the Olympics and how our coverage will be. So we just want to make sure you know where to find us. If you don't see us on TV, check the app. But if we're going to be on, we're going to be sending out notifications that we're on anyway, so you know. So, but we're not going to leave you hanging. That's the important thing. We're going to be here for you. We're going to get you through it. We'll take you through it hour by hour. Let's hope this is a bust. Meteorologists don't like to say that. We don't want to say that, oh, it's a bust. Let's hope. Of course, I hope it's a bust. I really don't want this to come to light. No one wants this. So let's hope that there's something that's off here that comes to light in the next few hours that tames this down. But right now, we can't take that risk. We just can't. We're looking at it. We're like, okay, you got to make your plans and you got to take those precautions. All right, I'm going to stop rambling. I just want to make sure I touch base with everybody. Again, we're going to be on midday coming up 11 o'clock. I'm going to be on that whole hour all the way through noon. We'll start streaming at noon, our new newscast. And I'll update you guys on where we're at hour by hour today and on social media as well. Okay, let me show you the 10-day real quick. It is going to get colder. Yes, we are looking at a bit of rain and snow this weekend. No, it's not a snowstorm. Could we get any slick spots? The only day I think that could happen would be Monday. The ground will get colder by that point, and it'll be mainly near or east of 65. Some flurries, snow showers, real light stuff, but we'll be cold enough that, we'll have to watch it. And then we're back to warm and rain, and then maybe snow again next weekend. I know. You don't have to say it. I don't have to look at your comments. I know. It's that time of the year. But tomorrow will be a really windy day. All right, guys, you're awesome. I appreciate you all. Appreciate your patience as always. And again, we'll keep you updated. Stay tuned as we head through this alert day coverage this afternoon. And again, let's hope for your best and check on your family and make sure everybody's okay. And enjoy the Olympics. I think we got figure skating coming on today. So make sure to check it out, guys. I'll see you soon.